Chapter 1286. You may stop the fight. In the face of Dark Dawn and Saint Defire's sudden madness, the time for Ninth Summit and the Berserkers to be tested instantly arrived. This trial was not just a test of their personal power, but also their will to persevere in a prolonged war. They also had to know how to handle cultivators who had been pushed into a corner, just like them. To a sect and any race, these were all incredibly rare experiences. After all, one mistake in this sort of war would end up in them being destroyed. Su Ming wanted Ninth Summit and the Berserkers to go through this process, because after that, they might learn how to get through other similar events. That was why, instead of going through it in the future, it was better for them to go through that right then. After all, only the difficulties of war could make the sweetness of victory unforgettable. Su Ming also wanted to use this rare opportunity to let his second senior brother test his skills in commanding and see what worked so that he could hone his skills for even more difficult situations in the future. The Berserkers also had to work on their cooperation with Ninth Summit so that they could reach the same wavelength in this battle and form a connection that was similar to those shared by bloodkin, allowing them to work in unity. Su Ming's second senior brother swiftly sent his orders to each corner of the battlefield, and more cultivators from Ninth Summit and Berserkers joined the battlefield to take over their comrades so that they could launch another large-scale battle on Dark Dawn and Saint Defire. It was a pity that this situation could not last too long. A loud, astonishing bang reverberated through space. Most of the rune was torn, causing the gap in Ninth Summit to widen, and most of Ninth Summit was revealed in the galaxy, allowing more cultivators from Dark Dawn and Saint Defire to rush inside. Under the firm orders of second senior brother, the cultivators of Ninth Summit and the Berserkers did not continue to stubbornly defend the gap. Instead, they began withdrawing in an orderly manner, shifting the battlefield from the galaxy to their world. When Su Ming saw this, the admiration in his eyes grew stronger. He saw Ninth Summit's growth and his senior brothers become stronger. When Su Ming became a will, his heart became something that no longer resembled the heart of a cultivator. But at that moment, the warmth he felt in the past rose in his heart. Su Ming knew that he had already changed. If his past self was in his place right then, the moment he saw Ninth Summit being attacked on all sides, he would have personally attacked without hesitation and killed all the invaders. But right then, he did not choose to do so. His thoughts were more focused on whether the sect and race were suited to live in the outside world. If they showed that they were capable, he would make it so that their right to live in the outside world was even greater. But if they were not, then he would choose to let them have 500 years of peace, at the very least. Then, he would use his full strength to fight so that those 500 years would turn into an infinite amount of time. The things he saw at that moment told him that Ninth Summit and the Berserkers could live in the outside world. They had the ability to improve and become stronger on their own. Even if Su Ming was no longer around, as long as there was a certain amount of fairness in the fights they faced, they could rise to power. And Su Ming could provide them that fairness. There is no madness that can last for long. It is the case for one person, one race, and even one sect. If you can crush them while they are in a state of madness, you can completely destroy their beliefs, and you will be able to achieve complete victory. When Su Ming said those words faintly, he looked at Ninth Summit, and he saw his second senior brother watching the battlefield with eyes burning with a brilliant light as he continued issuing orders without stop. From the layout of the battlefield, Su Ming could tell that second senior brother's choice was different from his. He chose to temporarily avoid direct conflict and instead waited until the enemy tired out to strike them with full strength. This method was different from Su Ming's, but it was slightly gentler. If he completed the setup, he could obtain complete victory with less losses. Right when Su Ming thought he could see the results of the battle and the cultivators of Dark Dawn and Saint Defire were about to show their most crazed and desperate side to charge into Ninth Summit en masse. A loud roar that shook the sky and earth shot out from Ninth Summit. As it echoed in space, Su Ming narrowed his eyes for the first time since he had arrived. He saw a floating continent crumble with a bang in Ninth Summit's world. The explosive power formed by the continent's destruction instantly swept through all directions and turned into a huge vortex. At the moment it rotated, booming sounds surged into the heavens, and the second as well as the third continents crumbled. Soon after, the fourth, fifth, up to the 12th continents crumbled and exploded. This was not due to Dark Dawn or Saint Defire. This was due to Ninth Summit themselves, who had been storing this power for this moment. At the instant the 12 continents crumbled, the destructive power spread through the entire world where Ninth Summit was located, but most of that power was gathered at the Gap of the Rune, causing many of the cultivators from Dark Dawn and Saint Defia to be instantly affected by it. The number of injured and dead was so high that it was simply disastrous for Dark Dawn and Saint Defia, and for a time being, shrill and forlorn howls and wails filled the sky. This scene caused Su Ming's pupils to constrict, and the sovereign of Dawn Yang Pei, who was originally distracted, stood up swiftly. A grave expression appeared on his face, and he fixed his stare on Ninth Summit. If it was not because he had suddenly remembered that existence who made him quiver in his boots, he might have immediately rushed into Ninth Summit. The crumbling of the continents caused so many cultivators from Dark Dawn and Saint Defia to die that the number surpassed 100,000. Countless runes and various enchanted vessels that could self-destruct and amplify power of explosions had clearly been laid out on the 12 continents beforehand. The 12 of them had been refined, because of which they looked like continents, but in truth, they were huge enchanted vessels. With Ninth Summit's retreat as bait, the moment Dark Dawn and Saint Defia descended into their most crazed state, they would launch a strike with unprecedented power, and with one hit, determine the results of the battle. Su Ming stood up and threw his head back to laugh. His second senior brother's methods surpassed his expectations. The firm and straightforward strike had crushed the convictions of the cultivators from Dark Dawn and Saint Defia. Amid the loud bangs, practically all of those still alive retreated. Their expressions were filled with shock, and their bodies trembled. There was too much blood, too many deaths. The suppression of the cultivation bases, their enemies' madness fueled by no thought to their actions, and everything else caused them to lose their courage to continue fighting. At the moment they retreated, Ninth Summit and the Berserkers' rise to power was set in stone. They were destined to achieve complete victory in this battle. Kill them! The roars from the cultivators from Ninth Summit reverberated through space at that instant. Together with Berserkers, they launched a full-power pursuit on the retreating cultivators from Dark Dawn and Saint Defia. For a period of time, the battlefield was in a chaotic state, but the battle had completely tilted towards Ninth Summit. Su Ming's laughter echoed in space. With a swing of his arm, he straightened and said, "You may stop the fight now. As for the lot of you, since you cooperated in this trial, I will not kill you today. Now, get lost." Su Ming's voice was like thunder, and it caused the sovereign of Dawn Yang Pei's heart to tremble. As his body shivered, he moved without hesitation and turned into a long arc that swiftly left into the distance. Chapter 1287. 3 things in the face of absolute power, all other forces of power were nothing. Su Ming already possessed this power. He watched the cultivators from Dark Dawn and Saint Defia, who had now broken down and were like a plate of scattered sand, and the cultivators from Ninth Summit and the Berserkers charging out in streams in pursuit, and his lips curled into a smile. There were deaths in this battle, but the path of cultivation was always a fight over life. It was a rough path, but dying on the way was not frightening. What was frightening was the fear towards death and losing confidence. Su Ming looked at the galaxy, then took a step forward. When his foot landed, he was already in Ninth Summit, appearing right next to his second senior brother, who was observing all the changes in the battlefield with all his attention, and who had confidence on his face as well as an air of elegance. "Second senior brother," Su Ming called out softly. At the moment he spoke, his second senior brother turned his head swiftly. Eldest senior brother, who was sitting not too far away, also seemed to have opened his mind's eye at that moment and directed his attention at him. Su Ming's figure manifested before second senior brother, and with a smile on his face, he wrapped his fist in his palm and bowed. Eldest senior brother did not have a head, but at that moment, his body was brimming with joy. Second senior brother also looked as if his spirits had been lifted, and laughing, he hugged Su Ming. "I knew you'd be fine." As second senior brother laughed, he pushed his hands on Su Ming's shoulders and observed him closely. There was love between brothers on his face. "You must have arrived a long time ago. How do you think I performed here?" A smug look appeared on second senior brother's face while he spoke with a smile. Their eldest senior brother stood up as well and strode over. He lifted his right arm and hugged Su Ming. He did not speak, but all his care and concern were contained in that hug between brothers. There was no need for words. When he sensed his eldest senior brother's powerful heartbeat, even if Su Ming's level of cultivation had reached an unfathomable stage and his will was so strong that he was only second to Arid Triad, during that moment, he forgot his own power. He only knew that he was the youngest in Ninth Summit, and the youngest junior brother of his senior brothers, who would forever want to protect him. With a smile on his face, Su Ming looked at his proud second senior brother and said softly, "Second senior brother, you showed off your talents in this battle." While second senior brother laughed, a long arc charged over from the distance. Before that figure even approached the area, Hu Zi's voice reached their ears like thunder. "Darn it all, that fight felt really good. Eldest senior brother, second senior brother, did you see how many of those?" Hu Zi charged forward while speaking, but right at the moment he was about to approach the area, his voice died abruptly. He had noticed Su Ming. Youngest junior brother. Hu Zi's footsteps came to an abrupt halt. He stared at Su Ming, then walked forward with huge strides and hugged Su Ming. Why you? Do you have any idea how many times second senior brother went to the area right outside Yin Death Vortex and watched it in silence? Do you have any idea how many times eldest senior brother worked hard to reach a breakthrough in his level of cultivation without regard for the cost? All of it so that you won't have to be so close to death all the time. Do you have any idea how many days I didn't sleep to set up the runes? Youngest junior brother, if you listen to me, then don't go anymore, now that you're back. Stay in Ninth Summit, and let's make sure that we senior brothers can stay together for eternity." As Hu Zi spoke, the excitement in his voice turned into a sob. To the outside world, he was a man with a personality like a tiger. He was a ferocious entity who would not blink even when he killed. When he smiled, there would still be a ferociousness to it, and his entire body exuded a heinous, murderous aura. But before Su Ming, second senior brother, and eldest senior brother, he was like a child. He was just Hu Zi, who loved laughing, crying, and peeking at others. Second senior brother was silent for a moment before he looked at Su Ming. Youngest junior brother, are you going to leave again? Eldest senior brother might not have said anything, but at that moment, he gave a feeling to the others that he too was waiting for the answer. Su Ming was silent. He did not speak and only stared at his eldest senior brother, his second senior brother, and Hu Zi. After a long while, he nodded slowly. "After I finish settling 3 final matters, I will return to Ninth Summit and not leave for 100 years. Oi. It was night. During it, Ninth Summit's night sky was filled with stars that reached 10,000 lees. It was brilliant. The battle during the day had ended. At that moment, most of the cultivators were resting and meditating, but there were some who were swiftly mending the runes so that the gap could be closed. Moonlight shone on the Ninth Summit. There was a table on it. Eldest senior brother sat at the head of the table, second senior brother to the left, Hu Zi to the right, and Su Ming at the end of the table. This was a reunion of the brothers under the same master. There was no distinction of status based on their levels of cultivation, and neither was there a ranking system used by the other summits in Freezing Sky Clan. Their seats were only determined by the time each of the disciples of the Ninth Summit had spent under their master's tutelage. The eldest was like master. When master was not around, eldest senior brother was the master of the sect. Behind Su Ming was Fang Kanglan, who stayed beside him quietly. Her face was one of composure and elegance. She did not mind Shu Hui's existence on his other side. Shu Hui had long since returned to Ninth Summit. Su Ming did not ask her about Dashun, and she did not say anything about him either. Ninth Summit won this battle, but the reason and the prerequisite for our victory was the overall levels of cultivation of the cultivators from Dark Dawn and Saint Defier being suppressed. Youngest junior brother, were you the one who did this? Second senior brother said after hesitating for a moment. He simply could not think of any other answer, and so he said it out loud and looked at his youngest junior brother. Su Ming had a calm expression on his face while he nodded. Once he did so, Hu Zi sucked in a sharp breath and stared at him in a daze. Second senior brother's breathing instantly quickened as well. His expression changed swiftly, filling with disbelief. They clearly knew the significance behind the suppression of the overall levels of cultivation for the cultivators from Dark Dawn and Saint Defier. This allowed them to know that Su Ming probably had the ability to destroy all the cultivators who descended from Dark Dawn and Saint Defier by himself. Eldest senior brother was silent, but his right hand shivered slightly, a telling sign that a storm had started raging in his heart during that moment. Among the three of them, eldest senior brother had always been the one with the highest level of cultivation. Second senior brother hadn't noticed the sovereign of Dawn Yangpei's existence, and it was even more difficult for Hu Zi, but eldest senior brother had formed a connection with the predecessor of Dao Ocean. With his help, he could clearly sense that there was an existence who caused him to feel terrified in that battle. It was the sovereign of Dawn Yangpei. Eldest senior brother had obtained information regarding that person's stature and reputation from Dark Dawn cultivators on which he had performed soul seek after capturing them. To be able to seal 6/10 of the power belonging to the cultivators from Dark Dawn and Saint Defier with someone like the sovereign of Dawn Yangpei around. This power already surpassed what eldest senior brother could imagine. Second senior brother remained quiet for a while before he spoke in a serious yet muffled tone. Youngest junior brother, what is your level of cultivation right now? How is your strength, compared to the sovereign of Dawn Yangpei? Su Ming was silent for a while before he answered honestly. He does not have the right to be my opponent. Right now, besides some of the sleeping ancient monsters, there should be very few cultivators in Arid Triad Expanse Cosmos and the 4 great true worlds, who can be my opponents. When Su Ming said those words, his eldest senior brother fell silent. Second senior brother's breathing became quicker, and Hu Zi gaped, unable to speak for a long while. They did not doubt Su Ming's words. Excitement and exhilaration immediately appeared on Hu Zi's face. He picked up the wine cup in front of him and took a big gulp from it, allowing the wine to trickle down the corners of his lips. Ha ha! Youngest junior brother, what should we do for our next step? Should we get rid of all the cultivators who descended from Dark Dawn and Saint Defier? Second senior brother, what do you think? Does my idea sound good? Is there something strange about Dark Dawn and Saint Defier? A contemplative expression appeared on second senior brother's face. He ignored Hu Zi and looked at Su Ming instead. He seemed to be thinking of something. Dark Dawn and Saint Defier are also part of Arid Triad. They might seem to be invading us through this war, but they are really just returning. It might seem dangerous, but it is really just the final bout of madness in their lives. The people who think they are the players do not know that it had been decided a long time ago that they are chess pieces. Even if we chase them away and kill them, it would make no difference, because the Arid Triad disaster is not now, but 500 years later. When Su Ming said those words slowly, he sighed softly. He told them some of the things he had experienced, including the disaster 500 years in the future, harmonious Morus Alba Expanse Cosmos, and the ancient monsters who would wake up before the disaster. As his voice echoed in the air, disbelief appeared on Hu Zi's face while his heart trembled. Second senior brother shuddered, and his eyes sparkled swiftly. While Hu Zi and second senior brother were silent because they were digesting the shocking truth, eldest senior brother asked in a muffled voice, youngest junior brother, you mentioned that you had 3 things you had to deal with just now. What are they? Su Ming raised his head and looked at his eldest senior brother before he said softly, the first would be going to the Emperor of Abyss True World. I'm going there to search for a woman and to retrieve my true world. I will return him something, and end a grudge that has tied me down for 1,000 years. Is it you, Xian? Fang Kanglan suddenly asked. Xu Hui had remained silent by the side since the start, but at that moment, she seemed to have remembered something. When she lifted her head, she looked at Su Ming as well. Su Ming nodded. Fang Kanglan did not say anything. Her expression was still as calm as water, but her lashes over her half-lidded eyes quivered ever so slightly. The second would be me going to an old haunt that will make me stronger. I will make all preparations for the disaster 500 years later. When Su Ming spoke, a fierce light appeared in his eyes. And this is the third. I will go to Dark Dawn's camp and find our master. The moment Su Ming said those words, Hu Zi's head snapped up. Second senior brother's expression also immediately filled with shock. Eldest senior brother fell silent, but determination filled him. Searching for our master is something our levels of cultivation will not allow us to do. Only you can bring master back. It's been a very long time since we saw the old man, said eldest senior brother. His voice was deep, and there was longing in his words. Su Ming did not tell them that besides searching for his master in Dark Dawn's camp, he had another goal. He wanted to go to the Spiritlings and have a look at his mother's homeland. Once I finish doing these 3 things, I will return to Ninth Summit and will wait for time to pass. I will wait for the day the disaster arrives. I've promised a certain group of people certain things in my life. During the next few hundred years, I will fulfill all those promises. Chapter 1288. The strongest in his eon. The people to whom Su Ming had made promises before were plenty, such as Xianxia, Flame Fiend's progenitor, the 100,000 cultivators in the foreign lands in the barren lands of divine essence, and many more. He never forgot his promises, and he would fulfill all of them. Su Ming had noticed Xianxia and Flame Fiend's progenitor when he arrived in Ninth Summit earlier. He had no idea when they had joined it, but there were very few who knew of their relationship with him. Only 500 years left. Huh? Soon after falling silent, second senior brother suddenly smiled. His smile was as gentle as before. However, it was filled with a ferociousness and an unwillingness to give up. Since there are only 500 years left, it doesn't matter whether you will succeed in the end or not. Perhaps during these 500 years, we should create more exciting battles with the world outside. Second senior brother picked up his wine cup and finished it in one gulp. When he put it down, he threw his head back and laughed. In silence, Huzi picked up another wine cup. When he downed it all in one big gulp, he threw it down the mountain, and a grave look that had never been seen before on his face appeared on him. Darn it all. 500 years will be enough. During them, I swear I'll find myself a wife. Huzi's words echoed in space. Second senior brother had been filled with fighting spirit, but when he heard Huzi's words, he was left stunned. Once he went over his shock, most of his fighting spirit was cut off by Huzi, and he smiled wryly. The night went by as the four brothers from the Ninth Summit drank a lot, since it was very rare for them to gather together. They talked about their past, their master, and the berserkers of the past. Fang Kanglan stayed by Su Ming's side throughout it all. She watched everything with a smile and occasionally handed Su Ming a pot of wine, as if this was the most important thing for her in her life. As for Xu Hui, she might have stayed by Su Ming's side for the night, but she remained silent, as if there was now a wall between them, as well as a certain amount of distance. It was especially so when Su Ming said that the disaster would descend in 500 years. She was clearly stunned for a moment, then she seemed to have remembered something. Su Ming did not ask anything about it. There were certain things and certain feelings that needed to go through trials. Su Ming did not believe that he was a good partner, because the things pushing down on his heart were too heavy, so heavy that he felt as if he could not put anything else in his heart. Yet Fang Kanglan had walked into Su Ming's heart. With 1,000-something years of persistence and waiting, she brought out a tenderness in him, and he had no reason to leave her. Since he had already chosen her, he would stay with her his entire life, regardless of how long it would be. This was Su Ming's determination. It did not matter whether it was friendship or love, it was the same. He was very happy that night, and Huzi was also very happy. He continued causing a ruckus by saying that he wanted to find a wife and grumbling about his second senior brother being too much of a womanizer and how there were countless women by his side. He spoke his mind, and he showed that he was jealous, very jealous. But Huzi did not know that his second senior brother's womanizing ways hid the pain and regret left behind by the one and only time he fell in love and persisted with it while in the land of berserkers. Su Ming had seen all of it in the past. He had practically witnessed the entire process. Their eldest senior brother did not like speaking, and it didn't change that night. He did not drink, but a warmth was exuded by his presence that was felt by his brothers. It was a warmth this cold man would definitely not show to other people. The three people before him were his junior brothers. All of them were people who he would give up his life to protect. He did not need any woman in his life, and perhaps there was no woman in the world who could accept his headless self. Su Ming's eldest senior brother always believed that it was enough for him to only have the three brothers in his life for the rest of his life. When morning arrived and the first ray of sunlight appeared in the dimension of Ninth Summit, eldest senior brother left to continue training. Since there were only 500 years left, he would make himself stronger while he could. Huzi collected a large number of cultivators from Ninth Summit and the fated kin of the berserkers to form a group of 10,000 cultivators to head to the outside world and patrol the area. If they found any remaining cultivators of Dark Dawn or Saint Defier, they would crush them completely. As for second senior brother, he had many other things to do. He had to manage everything in Ninth Summit, and many of his plans had to change after he learned what would happen 500 years later. Many new plans formed in his head, and he had to set them up one by one. Only Su Ming was left in Ninth Summit. He sat there and stared at the blue sky. Fang Kanglan was by his side and was watching him with a composed expression before she cast her glance at Xu Hui. Then, she lowered her head and turned around to leave. With her intelligence, she could tell that there seemed to be a wall that could not be described with words between her and Su Ming. A mountain breeze blew towards them and lifted Xu Hui's hair. She sat quietly for a long while, then she sighed softly. "Are you really not going to ask how I dealt with Deshan?" Xu Hui bit her bottom lip and looked at Su Ming. He stayed silent. He put down his pot of wine and shook his head. "If you want to tell me, even if I don't ask, you will still tell. If you don't want to say it, even if I asked, you would not answer." "I didn't kill him," Xu Hui mumbled after some time. "I know." There was no way Su Ming would not know everything in true Morning Dao world. Unless he did not want to, he would know everything that he wanted to know. At that moment, Deshan was on a damaged cultivation planet at the border of the true world near the Emperor of Abyss True World. He was staring at the heavens, and there was a hint of hatred mixed with some complicated emotions on his face. This scene was something Su Ming could see once he thought about it. A dazed look appeared in Xu Hui's eyes. Once she heard Su Ming's words, she instinctively wanted to explain her actions, but when he lifted his hand and touched her hair, her words disappeared. "I know that you owe him a debt of kindness, and there are blank spots in your memory." "I know that," Su Ming said calmly as he caressed Xu Hui's dark locks before he pulled her into his embrace. When Xu Hui came into contact with Su Ming's chest, she suddenly cried. The feeling of being lost and Deshan's face occasionally appearing in her head had caused her to not know what had happened to her. But at that moment, when she was in Su Ming's embrace, everything in her mind seemed to be rearranged. The feeling of being lost disappeared, replaced by a deep wave of fatigue. Gradually, she fell asleep. 500 years later, if Su Ming succeeded, then everything would be good, but if he failed, they were bound to disappear because of the disaster. Since they only had 500 years left, why was there a need for them to make each other suffer? It would be better to wipe off those memories. This method was slightly domineering, but there had always been a domineering attitude hidden in Su Ming's character. Time trickled by, and in the blink of an eye, 3 months went by. During them, Su Ming stayed in Ninth Summit and accompanied Kang Lan as well as Xu Hui. The three of them went through those days in a rare state of peace while watching the sun rise and set. There was a warm and gentle atmosphere around them, causing Huzi to be incredibly envious, and he started scanning the many female cultivators in Ninth Summit like he was in a rut. During the 3 months, aside from staying beside Kang Lan and Xu Hui, Su Ming spent every single day drinking with his senior brothers. Amid the laughter born from all of them temporarily forgetting all their troubles, Su Ming used his vast cultivation base and will to give pointers to Huzi in his training, second senior brother in his path of cultivation, and eldest senior brother in better understanding the antecedental spirits. His fusion with the predecessor of Dao Ocean also sped up. The predecessor of Dao Ocean was willing to participate in this fusion. Su Ming did not ask what happened between the two of them. He only knew that if his eldest senior brother wanted to become stronger, that he would do everything he could to help him. During the 3 months, cultivators from Dark Dawn and Saint Defier continued descending without stop in the outside world. Their numbers grew, but Ninth Summit became a forbidden ground for them. None of them dared to offend them anymore, and they strictly prohibited their own from getting close to Ninth Summit. Once they stepped into the area belonging to Ninth Summit, 6/10 of their cultivation bases would be suppressed, which was a warning. Ninth Summit was still treated as the master of true Morning Dao world. Even if they ventured out and ran into cultivators from Dark Dawn and Saint Defier, most of those people chose to retreat in silence. The battle 3 months ago had determined the state of affairs in this true world. Compared to the peace true Morning Dao world enjoyed after it, an intense battle broke out in true Sacred Yin world. The devastation brought with it the destruction of the rune. While Dark Dawn and Saint Defier suffered a little, to them, who continued sending in a continuous flood of cultivators from their home worlds, this loss was really nothing. Once the rune crumbled, the cultivators from Dark Dawn and Saint Defier surged in, causing true Sacred Yin world to change masters. On the other hand, as the fourth true world continued fighting and resisting, a stalemate was gradually established. It happened because powerful warriors whose names were never heard of would occasionally appear in the fourth true world to manipulate the situation of the war. As more and more of them appeared, they began to manipulate not just small areas, but the entire battlefield. Only the Emperor of Abyss True World remained calm. All the cultivators from Dark Dawn and Saint Defier who entered the place would fuse into the Emperor of Abyss True World and disappear without a trace. Another month passed, and Su Ming ventured out once to go to the True Morning Dao World's All Spirits Hall. Half a month later, when he returned, he appeared to be no different from before, but only Su Ming himself knew that the moment he walked out of the world in All Spirits Hall, a will so great it was shocking gathered on his body. It had felt as if all of Arid Triad had gathered together to turn into an eye to stare at him. It was the gaze of Arid Triad's will, because when Su Ming walked out of All Spirits Hall, he had already become so strong that he could cause the slumbering Arid Triad's will to instinctively become wary of him. He went through 5 complete spirit ascensions, and it equivalent to him going through 10 spirit ascensions. This was not something that had never happened when harmonious Morus Alba Expanse Cosmos was still one whole entity. After all, Su Ming was not the first to learn of All Spirits Hall, and he was not the first to have entered harmonious Morus Alba Expanse Cosmos. The All Spirits Hall had existed for countless eons. But Su Ming was definitely the best in this eon, and he was definitely the strongest at the present. Chapter 1289. You are a walking crystal mine. When Arid Triads were gathered on him, Su Ming did not choose to move back. Instead, he met Arid Triad's gaze squarely, and he kept his gaze on him for a long time. He waited for the antecedental spirit's disaster to descend on him, which might or might not happen, but before the disaster arrived, the sleeping Arid Triads will gradually disappeared. A perplexed look appeared on Su Ming's face. He had never thought to hide himself. Those from Dark Dawn and Saint Defier surely knew about him by then, and it was about time that Arid Triad knew about him as well. He went back to Ninth Summit, and when another month passed, Su Ming chose to leave. This time, he did not leave quietly, but left with his senior brothers sending him off, as well as Fang Kanglan and Shu Hui quietly watching him as he left. He gradually went into the distance to complete the second thing he wanted to solve the grudge he harbored for 1,000 years. He was also going to break the shadow over his heart brought to him by the scene he saw in the Secrets of the Universe. It's time to put an end to this. Su Xianxia, are you truly not going to try and retrieve the 5th kill, where your wife sleeps? Are you really going to let me have it? Su Ming turned his head around and cast a glance at the crowd from Ninth Summit, then turned around and took a step forward, vanishing into thin air while murmuring to himself under his breath. When he reappeared, Su Ming was already at the border between True Morning Dao World and the Emperor of Abyss True World. Further away from him was a damaged cultivation planet and a shun. Su Ming did not care about this person. He stared at the barrier between the Emperor of Abyss True World and True Morning Dao World. It was a wall, and behind it was the Emperor of Abyss. It was precisely because of that wall that the 4 true worlds had never had any intense battles break out between them. In the past, Su Ming did not have the right to break the wall, while Yu Xian had only been able to move from the Emperor of Abyss True World to Morning Dao because of her Abyss Dragon. She had used its power to move through true worlds. As he stared at the true world, Su Ming swung his right arm, and 2 long arcs immediately flew out of his storage bag. One of them was the Abyss Dragon, and the other was the Bald Crane. The Abyss Dragon had mostly recovered from its injuries. When it appeared, it looked as if it wanted to speak, but it immediately had a wing slapped over its mouth by the Bald Crane standing by its side. With a resentful look on its face, the Bald Crane glared at Su Ming. Its resentful look made it look like a bitter wife, and it was complaining about Su Ming not letting it out of his damn storage bag for a long time. In the past, as long as it wanted to, the Bald Crane could come out on its own, but as Su Ming grew stronger and his will grew greater, the Bald Crane could no longer appear at will. It could only wait passively to be summoned. This sort of feeling caused the Bald Crane to feel that it had become something like a bitter and resentful wife. Every single day, it had to live through its life counting crystals, sleeping, and hitting the Abyss Dragon. Then it was counting the crystals, sleeping, and hitting the Abyss Dragon again, rinse and repeat. Every single day. Gradually, the Abyss Dragon could no longer bear with it, and it began to resist and fight back violently, but it was difficult for it to escape from its predestined fate. At that moment, once it came out, the abyss dragon wept, but before it could speak, the bald crane had already slapped a wing on its mouth, and the grievance it felt reached its peak. Su Ming! The bald crane screeched. If it had feathers, all of them would have been bristling at that moment. It looked ready to fight while full with strong, resentful, angry energy about it. As it seethed, its aura reflected that anger and served as a background to give the bald crane a sense of size. Why you? How many days have you locked me up again this time, huh? Oh heavens! How many days has it been? I've already forgotten how many days have passed. I can't see sunlight, I can't see the stars. I can't see other people's crystals. This is torture. This is the greatest, biggest, most ultimate torture for me. Su Ming, you went overboard this time. I accompanied you through your expeditions over the years, went through many dangers by your side. I even saved you who knows how many times. But you. The bald crane was quivering with rage. As it continued shouting in anger, Su Ming touched his nose, and an awkward look appeared on his face. He had indeed forgotten about the bald crane. After all, when he was in harmonious Morus Alba Expanse Cosmos, he had been stunned by the truth he learned. The series of events he experienced were also all connected together, and it caused him to overlook many other things. Only when he came to this place and saw the Emperor of Abyss True World did he remember that the bald crane seemed to have been kept in his storage bag for a long time. Darn you! While the bald crane continued shouting in rage, Su Ming raised his right hand, and a crystal appeared on his palm. You! Don't even think about using a crystal to tempt me. I am the great bald crane. I'm not going to yield for just one crystal. At the instant the bald crane saw the crystal in Su Ming's hand, its eyes became fixed on it. This was the first crystal it saw in days that belonged to someone else. There might just be one, but it was someone else's. As long as it was someone else's crystal, the bald crane would never think that the number was few. That was why when it shouted, its eyes betrayed it. Its fixated stare made it seem that if Su Ming dared to put away the crystal, the bald crane would rush forward and fight for it with its life. You bully! One crystal, this crystal. As the bald crane spoke, great conflict appeared on its face. Its shouts immediately much weaker, an indecision as well as a look that very obviously said there was chaos going on in its mind appeared in its eyes. It was as if its mind had been divided into two portions, and they were fighting fiercely among themselves. I'm going to the Emperor of Abyss True World. I promise you that I'll give you all the crystals in that true world, all right? When Su Ming saw that the bald crane was waging war against itself in its mind as if it had not seen another person's crystal for far too long and was about to start doing something stupid as it was in a conflict with itself, he quickly spoke to distract it. You! Dream on, darn you, what did you say? Did you just say that you'll give me an entire true world's worth of crystals? The mighty bald crane will absolutely not yield. The bald crane was practically drooling at that point. It took a few instinctive steps forward, and an obsequious look had subconsciously snuck its way on its face, but it forced it down. When it was about to give extra emphasis that it would hold Su Ming's offer in disdain but would agree to it reluctantly, Su Ming sighed. Upon hearing it, the bald crane immediately felt its heart let out a thump. It panicked, afraid that Su Ming would go back on his word. Just as it was about to pounce on him, it saw something that it would never, ever forget in its whole life. It was a scene that shocked it more than anything else could. To a true world's will, crystals were objects that could be born from space if it swept through the true world with a divine thought. It was similar to what mortals said about turning stone into gold with a touch. Su Ming could create crystals with his will. Su Ming only swept his will through the true world, and countless crystals immediately appeared around them. There were so many of them that they covered a large part of the galaxy. The sparkling crystals stunned the bald crane. It was completely dumbstruck, and it was especially so because it had clearly seen that Su Ming had not brought out the crystals from his storage bag. After all, the bald crane had an even clearer grasp of how many crystals Su Ming had in his storage bag than he did. How did this happen? The bald crane instinctively asked in a dumbfounded manner. I made them. At the instant Su Ming answered this question, The bald crane screeched and pounced on him to hug his thigh tightly. "You're a walking crystal mine. From now on, you're my walking crystal mine. Even if you lock me up for 10,000 years, I'll acknowledge it. I'll absolutely not grumble even a single bit. Walking crystal mine, give me more crystals, please. Say, can you turn me into a crystal crane?" Chapter 1290. The Emperor of Abyss True World trembles. The bald crane's eyes sparkled as if it was looking forward to the day it would turn into a crystal crane. When it recalled how Su Ming had created crystal, the bald crane immediately forgot that it was just an illusion and felt its blood boil, somehow. As its body quivered in its excitement, it began howling. In the bald crane's eyes, the art Su Ming cast just then definitely took the title of the greatest art in the universe. The ability to create crystals out of thin air was an art it dreamed of having. To it, this was the greatest divine ability in the universe. Even Su Ming himself did not know just how great of an impact it had on the bald crane. It was practically a dream come true that could make the bald crane do everything it could to obtain it and fight for it with its life. Su Ming let out a dry cough. He had intentionally showed this divine ability to the bald crane to appease it, but when he saw just how excited it became, Su Ming had a vague feeling that he had gone overboard. The bald crane had actually requested that he turn it into a crystal crane. Hence, he quickly averted his gaze and ignored the crane, choosing to direct his attention on the barrier between True Morning Dao World and the Emperor of Abyss True World. A piercing light appeared in his eyes. Su Ming's eyes shone brilliantly. The bald crane immediately noticed this and cast a glance at the barrier. A thought appeared in its head. The time for it to show its abilities to Su Ming had arrived. As long as Su Ming was happy and created crystals for it every day, it would enjoy the greatest bliss in its life. When it thought of this, the bald crane became excited again, but it forced down its excitement and put on an expression of righteous anger. That's it? How dare it stop Sir Su Ming's footsteps? Damn it, how dare it stop the great, the almighty Sir Su Ming who can create crystals? I'll fight it to the death. The bald crane put on an expression as if it was livid, and as it roared, it turned its back to Su Ming while sending eye signals to the Abyss Dragon non-stop. Based on its plan, the Abyss Dragon had to show anger as well, which would make the effects of their actions even better. After all, in the bald crane's impression, the Abyss Dragon was its lackey and its partner as the dual fiends in the past. The Abyss Dragon was taken aback, then instinctively asked, "What does this mean?" As it spoke, the Abyss Dragon winked as well, sending the bald crane's eye signal right back at it. The Abyss Dragon did not understand what the bald crane meant. It was originally very excited, so why did it suddenly become so angry? The Abyss Dragon shrank back in regard to the bald crane's changes in expression. It felt that the bald crane was very terrifying. When they were in the storage, the bald crane had beaten it up every single day to pass time, and the more it thought about it, the more it felt that it could not catch up to the bald crane's thoughts. When the bald crane saw the dumb look on the Abyss Dragon's face, it instantly felt real anger. Just as it was about to shout at the dragon, Su Ming took a step forward and instantly appeared next to the barrier. He lifted his right hand and touched the invisible barrier. Shatter! The moment Su Ming said that word in a flat tone, his right hand touched the barrier. An astonishingly loud bang instantly reverberated through half of True Morning Dao World. As that sound traveled outwards, the bald crane gave up on the idea of giving the Abyss Dragon a flack. There was a ferocious look on its face, as if Su Ming only needed to point forward, and it would charge forth without looking back. It rushed at the barrier and crashed into it. To show off its talents so that Su Ming could create crystals for it, the bald crane had indeed decided to give it its all. But when it touched the barrier, or rather, just before it touched the barrier between True Morning Dao World and the Emperor of Abyss True World changed. A trembling membrane that looked like there was light flowing in it showed up. When cracking sounds rang out in space, holes spread out through the membrane, starting from where Su Ming's right hand had touched it. Su Ming did not move, but his hair fluttered freely. Even his white long robe danced in the wind. His face was indifferent, revealing no emotions. He calmly watched the cracks spreading through the entire barrier. Soon, it looked like it had turned into a spider's web. Then, a loud bang shot up, and it shattered to pieces, turning into countless fragments that spilled into the Emperor of Abyss True World. From a distance, They looked like falling snow. The fragments reflected a brilliant light, and when they were in the galaxy, they looked like starlight. At that moment, they were swept up by the wind and created an image of an ocean of stars. Since the ancient times, only a fine crack would occasionally appear on the barrier between two true worlds. Not one of them had ever shattered completely like this. Yet on that day, it happened. And it was not a destruction of a small portion of the barrier, since the entire ring-shaped barrier had shattered in different spots during that instant. All of this might have seemed to have happened over a long period of time, but in truth, it happened in an instant. When the bald crane charged at the barrier, it did not touch it. Instead, it shot right through the barrier since it crumbled and fell back. Let's go. I'll give you the same number of crystals you can seize from the Emperor of Abyss True World. A smile appeared on Su Ming's face when he cast a glance at the bald crane. The bald crane had supported him for 1,000-something years, so it could be said that it had already become a part of his family. Su Ming valued his relationships, and it was the same for the one he shared with the bald crane. When Su Ming's words reached the bald crane's ears, it became excited again. While shuddering, it screeched a few sentences, and with a single move, it appeared on the Abyss Dragon's body. The Abyss Dragon was so terrified that its heart trembled, but soon, the bald crane whispered something to it, and its eyes instantly sparkled. The light was not the sparkle of the bald crane's eyes, but was a light that Su Ming thought gave it a rather sleazy look. "Boss, is what you just said real?" The Abyss Dragon was so excited that it trembled when it asked its question. "Nonsense, of course it's real. When have I ever lied to you?" The bald crane immediately said, as if it was making a promise. "Are you really going to let me have all the female dragons? All right. I'll give it my all." The Abyss Dragon's eyes turned bloodshot. With a roar, it rushed forth with the bald crane, charging straight into the Emperor of Abyss True World. The bald crane made a ruckus in its excitement. When it went past Su Ming, it immediately lifted its claw and waved a little. "You promised you'll give me the exact same number of crystals I can get. Just you wait, if even one crystal will be left in this true world, then I suck." The bald crane's voice was still echoing in space when it left into the distance with the Abyss Dragon. It intended to leave Su Ming's side and loot the crystals itself since it was afraid of him throwing it into his storage bag again. Su Ming watched the bald crane leave and smiled faintly. He could tell what the bald crane was thinking with just one glance, but with his current level of cultivation, he could let the bald crane cause as much of a ruckus as it wanted, even if it was the Emperor of Abyss True World. Soon, this would no longer be the Emperor of Abyss True World, but Su Ming's True World. Su Ming still remembered how his will had appeared in harmonious Morus Alba Expanse Cosmos True Immortal Sect World when he entered it. He took a step forward and walked into the territory belonging to the Emperor of Abyss True World. All of the Emperor of Abyss True World trembled, and countless ripples appeared out of thin air in the galaxy. At the same time, a roar that all lives in the true world could hear reverberated through the true world. There was a wave of madness in that roar, along with great terror and an unwillingness to admit defeat. It sounded like there was a life form struggling in the most violent manner before it died. It had a powerful abyss death aura contained in its roars. This aura was different from the aura of death. There was a hint of sentience to it, along with a feeling that it was decaying, as if it could taint all forms of lives, and it caused all of the Emperor of Abyss True World to tremble violently. Those tremors caused all the lives in the Emperor of Abyss True World to feel their hearts tremble. Ferocious beasts unique to only the Emperor of Abyss True World that lived on its countless planets threw their heads back and let out shrill roars. They prostrated themselves on the ground as if they could sense death approaching them when the true world trembled. The cultivators felt it even better. No matter what they were doing and no matter what level of cultivation they had, as long as they were lives born in the Emperor of Abyss True World, all of them felt restless at that moment. Their cultivation bases became chaotic as if even their blood was about to gush out of their bodies. The higher their cultivation bases were, the stronger this feeling became. There were no sects in the Emperor of Abyss True World, but with various families serving as its veins, they formed a ruling system similar to a dynasty. Among them, the Emperor of Abyss status was the highest. There were 8 kings of Abyss below him, 36 generals of Abyss, which led countless armored cultivators of the abyssal world. Each king of Abyss had a family, and it was the same case for the generals of Abyss. Above the Emperor of Abyss was the true world's sublime paragon. Among the four great true worlds, only the sublime paragon of the Emperor of Abyss true world could make the cultivators of his true world worship him, and only in the Emperor of Abyss true world did the sublime paragon have his own Abyss Paragon Palace. Almost at the same time the true world trembled, all the families in the Emperor of Abyss true world felt their hearts shudder. There were also quite a large number of powerful warriors who swiftly sent out a powerful presence that swept out in all directions in an attempt to search for the reason behind the true world's tremors. Within the Emperor of Abyss hall was the Emperor of Abyss, who was dressed in an emperor's robe. He was a middle-aged man with an awe-imposing face, and he was staring coldly at some of the cultivators who were mocking each other with their words in his hall. Those people were talking about the large number of cultivators from Dark Dawn and Saint Defier who had appeared in the Emperor of Abyss true world. As he listened to those people's increasingly obvious words of ridicule, the Emperor of Abyss frowned. Enough. This is something the Lord Sublime Paragon has decided. What is the use of even discussing this matter? He said coldly. Right when his words appeared, the cultivators further down from his throne looked towards him. If you have any opinions about it, you can go and seek an audience with the Lord Sublime Paragon. Do not ruin my mood when I am about to bear witness to my son's marriage. The Emperor of Abyss frowned. The person in the hall was his clone while his real body was in the planet serving as the capital of the Emperor of Abyss true world watching the grand marriage. At that moment, he did not want to waste any time in this place. He stood up, and when his words rang in the air, he made to leave. But suddenly, his body trembled. The expressions of the cultivators in the hall also changed. Their hearts shook. The pain in the soundless roar seemed to have spread into each of the lives in the true world.